this lesson, we're going to read a news article together so you can improve all areas of your English. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Let's review the headline. Is stress eating always bad for you? An interesting question. Let's look at the grammar here because notice we have an adverb of frequency, always. And look at here, we have eat in the ing form, eating. But what is the function of this word in this sentence? Do you know? This is a gerund, but in this sentence, the gerund functions as a noun. It's the subject of the sentence. Written as a statement, you would start with the gerund, which functions as the subject. Stress eating, that's the gerund verb here, functioning as the noun, the subject of the sentence. Stress eating, and then you have your verb, is or isn't in the negative, always bad for you. And of course, stress eating, well, stress is a feeling of great worry because of a difficult situation. There are two common sentence structures. You can say, I'm stressed, to be stressed. So notice there's an ed here because stress functions as an adjective. It describes how you feel. And remember, that's a feeling of great worry because of a difficult situation. In this case, a project. I'm stressed because of the project. Now, sometimes native speakers say I'm stressed out. So they add the preposition out, which turns this into a phrasal verb, to be stressed out. However, the out is optional and it has the exact same meaning. Now, you can also say I'm under stress. I'm under stress because of the project. In this case, stress is a noun. It's not an adjective, so there is no ed. And you still use the verb to be, I am. So if it were she is under stress. She is stressed out. I'm under stress. So we use the word under, to be under stress. Both of these are very common, so I recommend adding them to your vocabulary. Now, don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now, let's continue and learn about stress eating. It's been a hard day. Notice the sentence structure here, to be a X day. So then you choose an adjective to represent X. You could say hard, like we have here, long, or you could use something positive. When someone says it's been a long day, that is a negative thing, not a positive thing. It was not long with joy. It was long with negative emotion. But you could use a positive adjective. It's been a great day, an amazing day. Make sure you change your article to a or an depending on what adjective you use. Now here, notice it has been. This apostrophe S represents the word has because this is the present perfect. And when you use the present perfect, it means the day is still in progress. Like this woman here who is stress eating, her day is still in progress. She's still working. But at the end of the day, you can look back and say, it was a hard day. It was an amazing day. You might be more familiar with the sentence structure to have a adjective day. I had an amazing day. Both of them are very common. This one is more of an expression. It focuses on the day. Native speakers use this a lot. Your friend might ask you, oh, do you want to go to the movies tonight or go for a walk tonight? And you say, oh, it's been a long day. I just want to relax and watch some TV. And at the end of your day today, I hope you reflect back and say, today was a great day because I improved my English, and I hope this lesson played a role and helped you do that. So if you feel that way, put that's right. Today was a great day because I improved my English. Put that's right in the comments. Let's keep going. It's been a hard day. The worst thing you can do is reach for the chocolate chip cookies that taste like the ones your family always had when you were a kid, right? Let's review this word right. It functions as a question tag. It is a more informal question tag. Native speakers commonly use this in spoken English, but as you know, this is a news article, so this is used in written English as well. Now, the more formal way of saying this, the standard way is perhaps, do you agree? Isn't this true? But you can simply say right. Now, isn't it interesting because I asked you to say that's right in the comments, because basically what I'm doing is asking you to agree with this statement. So I could add on this question tag. Today was a great day because I improved my English, right? And that's why I said put that's right in the comments. So now you know why I ask you to do this as a comment, because it's an informal question tag and I'm getting you to agree with it. Notice in our article that they're getting you to agree with saying that the worst thing you can do is stress eat or emotional eat. So they're getting you to agree with seeing this as a negative thing. So let's continue. Eating driven by emotions, otherwise known as emotional stress eating, so you can call it emotional eating or stress eating, is often painted as scary, unhealthy, and out of control. But the truth is that it is very normal and can be part of a healthy relationship with food. Let's review to be painted as. So here we have our adverb of frequency often, but the expression is to be painted as, and then you have an adjective. Now, painted as means portrayed, described, or represented. If you use any of these three alternatives, which you absolutely can do, you would still need the verb to be is described as, and you would need as, and then you have your adjective. So it's the exact same sentence structure. So now you have 4 different ways to say it. For example, public speaking is painted as stressful. So is described, represented, portrayed. Now you could add an adverb of frequency. Remember, it would be after the main verb to be. Is usually, sometimes, or another adverb of frequency, but that is optional. You don't need to include it. Public speaking is sometimes, usually, always painted as stressful. But in reality, in truth, notice here, the truth is, so here it's the truth is. That is optional. And then the statement that describes the truth. It is very normal. This is the truth. The truth is, it is very normal. Now, instead of truth, you could use the word reality. And here you could say in truth, in reality. So there is, again, another way of saying the exact same thing. In reality, in truth, it can be enjoyable. And then I added my question tag, right? Would you agree with this? Isn't this true? And then you can say, that's right. Or you could say, that's wrong. I don't agree. No, I don't agree. That isn't true. The choice is yours. But that's how we would use right as a question tag, an informal question tag.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, the movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
Having a healthy relationship with food is important to avoid developing eating disorders.
Now, what do you notice here? This is what we talked about at the very beginning. It starts the sentence, it's in the ing, so this is a gerund statement. This is the gerund, but in this case, it functions as a noun and it functions as the subject of a sentence. And the whole subject isn't just the word having, it's having a healthy relationship with food. Everything before the verb to be is the subject of the sentence. So all of this represents the subject, and gerund verbs are conjugated as it. So that's why you have is. Even if there were a noun here or a plural here or two nouns making it more than one plural, it's always is because gerund statements are conjugated as it. It is important. Now, what do you notice about this verb? To avoid developing eating disorders. The word developing. This is also in the ing form. It's also a gerund, but it's not the subject of the sentence. In this case, the gerund verb is being used because the verb avoid is a gerund verb, which means the verb that follows avoid is in the ing form always. Avoid is the main verb. You conjugate this based on the time reference and the subject. So to conjugate it with the subject, she avoids, you would add that S to the main verb avoid in the present simple. She avoids, and then the next verb, it does not matter what the verb is. If it's a verb, it's in the ing form. She avoids speaking in public. Or you could say she avoided. In this case, the verb avoid is conjugated with the time reference. It's in the past simple. She avoided meeting. In this case, the verb is meet in the ing. She avoided meeting with her boss. And in this article, you want to avoid developing eating disorders. So in this case, eating disorders, this is the noun. It is a something. It's a noun. This is the something you want to avoid. Emotional eating. This is the subject of the sentence. Remember, another word for emotional was stress eating. Stress is always negative. There's no view of stress being a positive, but emotional is more neutral. It sounds like, well, part of an emotion is positive emotions and negative emotions. So you could say stress eating, which sounds more negative, or emotional eating, which sounds more neutral. Emotional eating doesn't have to be inherently bad, right? I'm just showing you different ways you can add on this question tag, right? In this case, because it used doesn't have to, the formal way to add a question tag, the standard way would be to say, does it? Emotional eating doesn't have to be inherently bad. Does it? Because remember, you always choose the opposite. So if this is negative, your question tag is in the positive. So you have the informal way, right? But remember, it's a question, so you have a rising intonation, right? Does it? And this is the standard way. And inherently means naturally. So the fact that emotional eating exists with it naturally, it's not necessarily negative. It doesn't have to be inherently bad. It doesn't have to be bad at its core, at its basic part. And now we'll find out why. Food is necessary to fuel. Repeat after me. I hear a lot of mispronunciations with this. Fuel. Of course, you're familiar with fuel for vehicles, but of course, our bodies need fuel as well, and food is how we do that. Food is necessary to fuel our bodies, but maintaining a healthy relationship with this vital source of sustenance can be a challenge for many. Sustenance refers to the energy or the nutrients that food provides. So it's not the food in itself, it is what food provides us that is essential for our survival. And vital is another way of saying essential. So maintaining a healthy relationship with this vital source, essential source of sustenance, energy, or nutrients that food provides can be a challenge for many. That is especially true when it comes to foods that produce strong feel-good emotions in us. Let's look at feel-good emotions in us. So you could say chocolate makes me feel good. So here feel is the verb and then good is the adjective. Chocolate makes me feel good. You could turn this into a gerund statement and say, what would you say to turn this into a gerund? You could say eating chocolate makes me feel good. So here, eating is the subject of the sentence. Eating chocolate is the full subject of the sentence. And then remember, verbs that go with the gerund statement are conjugated in third person singular. It makes me feel good. So you could start with a noun or a gerund verb. Or you could say chocolate is a feel-good food. Right here, feel good is an adjective. It describes what type of food. So you could say chocolate is a food. Well, what type of food? A feel good food. So this is an adjective. Now, what is a feel good food? What does this adjective mean? Well, of course, it's food that makes you feel good. You can use this with music, movies. That's a feel-good movie. It might be a movie you want to watch with your whole family, young children, older grandparents. It makes everyone feel good. So you can use this with other things as well. Now let's take a look at food, because most of the time you will use food in the singular, but it is possible to use it with an S in the plural. Let's review these two sentences. Let's pick up food on the way home. So in this case, food is singular because it's referring to food in general. Let's pick up food. Let's pick up groceries on the way home. This is how you'll use it most of the time. It is possible to add that S. When you do that, you're referring to groups of food types. So this is a type of food, this is a type of food, and then all those groups together, that's how you would have foods with the plural. Which foods are the healthiest? This is a question you might ask a nutritionist or a doctor, or just ask Google. Experts say that people should not apply strict rules or shame-based strategies when trying to cope with their eating habits. Let's review to cope with something. So your verb is cope, and then you use the extra preposition with before you provide the object, which would be a noun or a gerund verb. Now you could also say to deal with, or to manage, or to handle. If you use manage or handle, you don't use the additional preposition with. So when trying to manage their eating habits, to handle their eating habits. So you could ask, do you have any strategies to handle stress? Or to cope with stress. And when you cope with, deal with, manage, or handle something negative, you try to limit, reduce, or eliminate whatever that negative situation is. So if you want to handle stress, then you try to limit it, reduce it, or eliminate it, get rid of it altogether. Let's continue. It's important for people to embrace nuance in his or her opinion when it comes to the ways in which they eat, while keeping in mind that there is a line at which emotional eating can become unhealthy. Embrace means to willingly accept, and a nuance is a very small difference. So it's important to accept these small differences in people's opinions when it comes to their eating habits, the ways in which they eat. This could just be described as comes to their eating habits, while keeping in mind, to keep something in mind means to remember it. Remember it when you're in a specific situation, while keeping in mind that there is a line at which emotional eating can become unhealthy. So a line means that, so imagine this is the physical line. So this activity, when you do it, it's healthy, but this activity, when you do it, isn't healthy. So the line divides the activities between healthy and unhealthy. It's a very common expression, and often we add the word fine, which means a small difference. So you could say there's a fine line between being assertive and being rude. So assertive is when you firmly state your needs, your wants, your feelings, your desires. So this is the line. So if I communicate in one way, I'm being assertive, but if I communicate in a slightly different way, I'm being rude. Now, when someone says this, generally they're reminding you that you might think you're being assertive, but in reality, you're being rude. So this is a polite way to either remind someone or tell them to be careful because there's a fine line, a very small difference. Let's continue. People need to think about why they are seeking out those foods that they enjoy and that make them feel strong emotions. To seek out is a phrasal verb that means to purposely find. And in this case, it's you find that cookie that is a feel good cookie. It makes you feel good. That would be the strong emotion. And then you eat it. So to seek out wouldn't be just locating it. It would also be then consuming it in this context. Is it because they are avoiding addressing? Now remember, avoid is our gerund verb, but you conjugate the verb avoid based on the time reference and the subject. So in this case, avoid is in the ing form because it's the present continuous. They are avoiding. Right now, they are avoiding. But your next verb, in this case, address, is in the ing form always because avoid is a gerund verb. Is it because they are avoiding addressing some issue versus simply giving themselves some pleasure reward after a hard day? Remember, you could say after a long day, a difficult day. Any negative adjective, hard is a general negative adjective that doesn't specify why it was difficult. It's just in general, a hard day, a long day, a difficult day. You could also say stressful because we need an adjective and stressful after a stressful day or as part of celebrating an achievement. So you have to remember the reason why, because again, there's a thin line between healthy eating and emotional eating or stress eating. So if you're doing it for pleasure, that's the category of healthy. If you're doing it to avoid a negative emotion, that potentially could be the category of unhealthy. So there's that fine line. Sometimes when people get too wrapped up in only eating the most nutrient-dense foods, they miss out on a lot of moments that involve food for pleasure, socialization, and connection, experts say. Let's look at the two phrasal verbs here, wrapped up in, and then we'll also look at miss out on. The phrasal verb is to get wrapped up in. So get is your main verb, and then wrap functions as the adjective, wrapped up, and then you need the preposition in if you specify the something. Now get talks about the transition from not wrapped up in to wrapped up in. You could also use the verb to be to describe your current state. I'm wrapped up in something. Now, this means that you're overly focused on something. So in this context, don't get too wrapped up in only eating the most nutrient-dense foods. So if you get wrapped up in it, you might take 10 or 15 minutes to choose one food item because you're looking at every ingredient, you're Googling it, you're overanalyzing it, you're too focused on it. So general advice: don't get wrapped up in gossip at work. Don't overly focus on it. Yes, it exists, but you don't have to spend all your time focusing on it. We often use this as a reason why we're late. Sorry, I'm late. I got wrapped up in a meeting. You were in a meeting and you were so focused on the meeting, you didn't realize what time it was. Now, let's take a look at miss out on, also a two-part phrasal verb. You have miss out, and then in this case, you use the additional preposition on if you're specifying the something. So remember, get wrapped up in something, miss out on something. If you miss out on something, it has the same meaning as the verb to miss something, but it's an opportunity. So you don't experience something or you don't benefit from something, whatever that opportunity here. And in this case, the opportunity is to enjoy food for pleasure, socialization, or connection. So that's what you miss out on. You miss the opportunity to enjoy food if you get too wrapped up, overly focused in what that food contains. Human bodies are also built to enjoy food, so it makes sense that when you are feeling strong emotions, you reach for something that tastes or feels good. Again, a feel-good food. And that's the end of the article. So now I'll read the article from start to finish, and this time you can focus on my pronunciation. Is stress eating always bad for you? It's been a hard day. The worst thing you could do is reach for the chocolate chip cookies that taste like the ones your family always had when you were a kid, right? Eating driven by emotions, otherwise known as emotional stress eating, is often painted as scary, unhealthy, and out of control. But the truth is that it is very normal and can be part of a healthy relationship with food. Having a healthy relationship with food is important to avoid developing eating disorders. Emotional eating doesn't have to be inherently bad. Food is necessary to fuel our bodies, but maintaining a healthy relationship with this vital source of sustenance can be a challenge for many. That is especially true when it comes to foods that produce strong feel-good emotions in us. Experts say that people should not apply strict rules or shame-based strategies when trying to cope with their eating habits. It's important for people to embrace nuance in his or her opinion when it comes to the ways in which they eat, while keeping in mind that there is a line at which emotional eating can become unhealthy. People need to think about why they are seeking out those foods that they enjoy and that make them feel strong emotions. Is it because they are avoiding addressing some issue versus simply giving themselves some pleasure reward after a hard day or as part of celebrating an achievement? Sometimes when people get too wrapped up in only eating the most nutrient-dense foods, they miss out on a lot of moments that involve food for pleasure, socialization, and connection, experts say. Human bodies are also built to enjoy food, so it makes sense that when you are feeling strong emotions, you reach for something that tastes or feels good.
Do you want me to make more lessons where we review the news together? If you do, then put put more in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And I have another lesson I know you'll love. Make sure you watch it right now.